Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan says no fresh COVID case in 80 districts over the last 7 days, while the doubling rate of infection has reduced to 10.9 days in the last 2 days. Says manufacturing of PPE kits has started in the country. Active cases of COVID-19 in India crosses 22,000 with 937 deaths reported from across the country. Over 7,000 patients cured and discharged. Prime Minister Narendra Modi discusses COVID-19 pandemic with Indonesian President Joko Widodo and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau over the phone. Says close cooperation between India and these countries will be important in dealing with the challenges posed by the crisis. Global tally of confirmed COVID-19 cases goes past 31 lakh with over 2,16,000 deaths. United States worst hit with over 58,000 fatalities, followed by Italy, Spain and France. US President Donald Trump announces that the state of Texas will start reopening businesses in phases from coming Friday, says many states moving to reopen safely and quickly. In some other news, Union HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank announces midday meal or its equivalent food security allowance will be provided to children even during summer vacations. During a video conference with state education ministers, the union minister says decision will benefit about 11.5 crore children. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman says Congress is misleading willful defaulters, bad loans and write-offs. Says willful defaulters benefited from UPA's phone banking, but Modi government is pursuing willful defaulters, and total value of attachment and seizures in Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksey and Vijay Mallya cases is over 18,330 crore rupees. Hello and welcome to this edition of the news. I'm Rukma. Top story. India is making progress in combating the coronavirus outbreak. The government is constantly monitoring all activities and making changes in rules and policies to ensure optimal use is made of available resources in services of the nation while observing all precautions. The way forward is also being deliberated. Take a look.
Various union ministers held meetings on Tuesday to review functioning in their respective ministries. The Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, reviewed the current status of COVID surveillance in Delhi with Lieutenant Governor Delhi Health Minister, MCD Commissioners, DMs and DCPs of all districts of Delhi and central, state and district surveillance officers and heads of government hospitals through video conferencing. Dr. Harshvardhan also held meetings with autonomous institutions and PSUs under the Department of Biotechnology through video conferencing. He briefed about the current situation of COVID-19 in the country. He said that no fresh case was reported in 80 districts since last 7 days. 17 districts have not reported a case for last 28 days. He also highlighted a further decline in the doubling rate. The minister said that for the last 14 days, the doubling rate is 8.7, while for the last 7 days, it is 10.2 days. In last 3 days, it is 10.9 days.
Pre-lockdown, our doubling rate of cases was around 3 days. But when I talk to you today, for the last 14 days, our doubling rate had been 8.7, and for the last 7 days, it had been 10.2. And today for the last 3 days when we calculate it is roughly 10.9.
He added that India will be able to produce RT-PCR and antibody test kits within the country by May. This will help the country to achieve the target of 1 lakh tests per day by May 31st.
सब चीज़ें एडवांस्ड स्टेज में है. बहुत जल्दी ICMR की क्लियरेंस होते ही विद इन ए वीक वो सब चीज़ें प्रोडक्शन स्टेज में चली जाएंगी. जैसा कि हमारा टारगेट है कि 31 मई तक हम 1 लाख टेस्ट देश में करना चाहते हैं हर रोज़, उस टारगेट को अचीव करने में भी ये डेवलपमेंट हमें बहुत मदद करेगी।
Information Technology Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad also had an interaction with the IT ministers of all the states. He said that an app is being prepared to share the best practices of states to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
वर्क फ्रॉम होम नॉर्म को और हमको पॉपुलराइज करना है, तो इसके लिए आपको मालूम है रेस्ट्रिक्शंस काफी होते हैं, 1-8 करोड़ रुपए का डिपॉजिट होता है, क्लियरेंसेस होता है, तो उसको हमने कोरोना के आने के बाद रिलैक्स किया था। अभी तक वो 30 अप्रैल तक रिलैक्स था। हमने ये फैसला किया है कि अब ये 31 जुलाई तक रिलैक्स रहेगा।
Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh too reviewed contribution of defense public sector undertaking units and Ordnance Factory Board to fight COVID-19 and their operational plans. Union HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank also held a meeting via video conferencing with state education ministers and discussed issues related to COVID-19 and midday meal program. He said that the complete syllabus of CBSE and NCERT is available on Diksha portal.
CBSE NCERT का पूरा पाठ्यक्रम दीक्षा पोर्टल पर आपको मिल जाएगा। एक राज्य को छोड़कर के देश के सभी राज्यों ने दीक्षा पोर्टल पर अपने को जोड़ा है और वो विद्यादान 1 करके हम लोगों ने इसको शुरू किया था और मुझे इस बात को कहते हुए बहुत खुशी है, दीक्षा पोर्टल के माध्यम से हम पूरे देश के छात्रों को दे पा रहे हैं।
Apart from this, other ministries to discuss steps to combat coronavirus pandemic and measures to be taken to contain the virus spread while coming up with ways to ensure the nation can find its way back to making the economy flourish once the challenge is tackled. DD India.
And the HRD minister also announced that midday meal or its equivalent food security allowance will be provided to children even during the summer vacations during his meeting with state education ministers. This will meet the nutritional requirements of eligible children under midday meal scheme in order to safeguard their immunity, which is vital during the COVID-19 outbreak. This will benefit about 11 crore 5 lakh children studying in class 1 to 8 in 11 lakh 34,000 schools across the country. Central government will provide additional funds of about 958 crore rupees and 3 lakh metric ton food grains worth approximately 990 crore rupees towards this. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke on the phone yesterday with President of Indonesia Joko Widodo. The two leaders exchanged thoughts about the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic in the region and the world. The Indonesian president appreciated the facilitation provided by Government of India for supplies of pharmaceutical products to Indonesia. Prime Minister assured him that India would do its best to prevent disruption in supplies of medical products or the other commodities traded between the two countries. The leaders discussed issues related to their citizens present in each other's countries and agreed that their teams would remain in touch to ensure all possible facilitation in this regard. Prime Minister underlined the fact that Indonesia is an important maritime partner in India's extended neighborhood, and the strength of the bilateral relationship would help both countries in fighting the effects of the pandemic. He also conveyed greetings for the holy month of Ramadan to President Widodo and to the friendly people of Indonesia. PM Modi also exchanged thoughts with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. In a tweet, he said, I quote, had a warm exchange with PM Justin Trudeau, thanked him for looking after Indian citizens in Canada in these difficult times. Collaboration and partnership between India and Canada are vital to fighting the pandemic, including through medical research and supply chain management. The 11th session of the Petersburg Climate Dialogue witnessed India, along with 30 other countries, deliberating over ways and means to tackle the challenge of reinvigorating economies and societies after COVID-19. Representing India in the first virtual Petersburg Climate Dialogue, Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Prakash Javadekar said that today, as the world is unitedly engaged in finding a vaccine for novel coronavirus, likewise, we should have climate technology as open source which must be available at affordable cost. Stressing on the issue of climate finance, Javadekar said the world now needs more. Union Minister advocated for the plan of $1 trillion in grants to developing world immediately. The Union Minister highlighted that COVID-19 has taught us we can survive on less. The world must think of adopting more sustainable consumption patterns in line with the requirement of sustainable lifestyles. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has criticized Congress leader Rahul Gandhi for misleading people by sensationalizing facts and taking reports out of context. In a series of tweets, the Finance Minister said provisions are made for NPAs as per the 4-year provisioning cycle laid down by the RBI. Upon full provisioning being done, banks write off the fully provided NPA but continue to pursue recovery against the borrower. No loan is waived off. Dissecting certain high-profile cases, Sitharaman said that the Modi government has taken steps to recover money through various steps such as seizing, attaching and auctioning various assets and possessions. She added that extradition requests had been made to the countries that the defaulters were living in. The Finance Minister also mentioned in detail about cases of Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi and Vijay Mallya. In case of Nirav Modi, she said his immovable and movable properties have been attached or seized and he is in prison in the UK. In the Mehul Choksi case, Sitharaman stated that his properties have also been attached and seized. A red notice has been issued against him and an extradition request has been sent to Antigua where he is. And hearing of the declaration against Mehul Choksi as fugitive offender is in progress. Meanwhile, in the Vijay Mallya case, Sitharaman said Mallya has been a declared fugitive offender. On extradition requests by the Government of India, UK High Court has also ruled for extradition. His properties have already been attached and seized. The Finance Minister in another tweet said the total value of the attachment and seizures in the cases of Nirav Modi, Mehul Choksi and Vijay Mallya is 18,332.7 crore rupees. She further added that it is the Narendra Modi government which is pursuing these willful defaulters. As per the latest updated data provided by the Health Ministry, active cases of COVID-19 in India stand at 22,629 with 1,007 deaths reported from across the country, while 7,695 patients have been cured and discharged. India's recovery rate has climbed a further 23.3% with more and more patients recovering. In the Health Ministry briefing yesterday, it was also informed that the government has issued new self-isolation guidelines where only mild pre-symptomatic people are considered fit for self-quarantine. Anyone under home quarantine has to be monitored closely. The Health Ministry has further said that plasma therapy is in the early stages in India, where it is simply being experimented upon. So far, there is no evidence that it be used for treatment. It has also not been approved by ICMR for treatment as yet. And in the midst of the lockdown, a number of NGOs and organizations have come forward to help people in destitute and who are destitute and fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. One such ashram is the Radha Swami Satsang Vyas Ashram in Bhati in New Delhi, which is not only preparing and distributing huge quantities of food, it is also providing shelter to the needy. Our correspondent Meghna Dev brings us this report.
We are here at the Radha Swami Satsang Vyas Ashram in Bhati. This place, this ashram is serving about 1,05,000 food packets every day and is getting them prepared and packaged and also distributed. So let's take you inside and let's get to you a glimpse of how the entire ashram is functioning to provide food materials and also to provide shelter to the people in need in this lockdown. Radha Swami Satsang Vyas Bharati Ashram, wherein there are a number of migrant laborers, over 450 migrant laborers who have taken shelter here. Whenever they enter the shelter home, they have got their hands sanitized and sanitization is being done. Also, there is a thermal scanning being done of the people who actually get inside the sheltered home, and there have been mattresses, pillows, blankets provided to all the migrant laborers. There are also television screens which have been put up here in different sections of the sheltered home.
यहाँ पे जी हम लोग को सभी चीज़ मिल जाता है, नहाने धोने का साबुन, पानी, कोलगेट वगैरह वगैरह, और प्लस खाना भी बहुत ही अच्छा है।
और बच्चों के लिए दूध भी मिलती है, और जो कैंसर के बीमारी उनके लिए फल फ्रूट सब कुछ मिलता है। योगा करवाते हैं भैया सुबह 11-12 बजे, और अभी शाम को भी करवाते हैं।
So there is a center here right inside the sheltered home. This place is actually making masks continuously for these migrant laborers here.
यहाँ हम लोग को पुलिस वाला ले आया, बोला हम आश्रम में ले चलेंगे, वहाँ आप लोग अच्छे से रहेंगे, यहाँ रोड पर है। तो हम लोग आ गए तो यहाँ हम लोग को सेवा पानी हो रहा है, तो हम लोग भी सोचे कि थोड़ा सीखे उखे है तो हम लोग भी सेवा पानी कर दे। बना रहे हैं मास्क, दिन भर में तो सब बना देते हैं।
And this is the kitchen which produces meals for about 1,10,000 people in a day. About 2.5 lakh parathas are made every day. These big boilers are used to make dal, khichdi, rice and all these things. There are about 12 boilers in this kitchen, each having a capacity of about 25 kgs. Over 400 volunteers are working all day and night. The kitchen is all working throughout the day to keep the process going, and about 55,000 meals come out of this kitchen at a time. So in total in a day there are 1,10,000 meals that come out of this kitchen, and this packaging unit packs all the cooked food that comes here, neatly packs in all the packaging material. After the food material is packaged, it is distributed into stacks of 50 each, and after that it is loaded into a loading vehicle and taken to the distribution point from where the people who need the food materials are actually taking away the food materials so that contact can be avoided as much as possible.
मैम हमारी तरफ से जो डीएम साउथ हैं उनकी तरफ से ऑर्डर किए गए थे, वेरियस जो डिपार्टमेंट हैं गवर्नमेंट के, उन्होंने हम लोगों को, जैसे पीडब्ल्यूडी है, इन्फोर्समेंट डिपार्टमेंट है, उन्होंने अपनी गाड़ियां प्रोवाइड की गई हैं। यहाँ से जो पैकेट्स फूड के मिलते हैं उन गाड़ियों में लोड होते हैं, और जितना भी हमारा साउथ डिस्ट्रिक्ट के वेरियस पॉइंट हैं, पूरे साउथ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में वॉलंटियर हैं, हमारे सिविल डिफेंस के हैं, कुछ एनजीओ के लोग भी आते हैं। उन लोगों को यहाँ से हम प्रशासन की तरफ से राधा स्वामी से खाना लेके उनको प्रोवाइड करते हैं, और उसके बाद ये वेरियस पॉइंट पे जाके अलग अलग जगह डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं। मैम
The preparation and packaging of such large magnitude of food with several volunteers and institutions like this coming up for the cause of humanity not only gives hope to the world amidst the fighting of this pandemic, but also brings in us the spirit of generosity. With camera person SP Dubey, Meghna Dev, DD News, New Delhi.
At a time as a lockdown is in place across the country to fight against the corona pandemic, a village in Tamil Nadu has found innovative ways to comply with the lockdown even while meeting the basic needs of the dwellers. Taking to heart Prime Minister Narendra Modi's assertion that the lockdown is for the welfare of all, people of Chetti Thirukonam village in Ariyalur district do not step outside the village limits even to get essentials during the curfew. Instead, they have turned adversity into opportunity and returned to the barter system practiced by their ancestors. The village is home to over 400 families who exchange agricultural produce cultivated on their own land instead of taking the goods to markets outside. In Uttarakhand, amidst the nationwide lockdown, portals of the Kedarnath temple opened this early morning. Portals, however, opened strictly for performing rituals and not for devotees. The decorated temple will, however, only host the chief priest of the temple along with just a few other priests. Darshan will not be allowed for devotees as of now due to COVID-19. And as we're telling you, the portals of the Kedarnath temple were open at 6:10 a.m. today. Darshan for devotees, we reiterate, is not allowed at the temple as of now. U.S. President Donald Trump took to Twitter to inform that several states in the country are on their way to reopen, and that too safely. The U.S. President said that Texas is ready to resume its working in phases from 1st May. He also referred to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's plan of three-phased opening of the states. Restaurants, retailers, movie theaters and malls in state will be open to the public till the 25% capacity to allow the practice of social distancing. The stay-at-home order in Texas will expire on April 30th, but bars, salons and gyms will still remain closed. Meanwhile, President Trump has said the U.S. was considering having passengers on international flights from coronavirus hotspots be tested for the virus. Meanwhile, the United States has reached yet another troubling milestone as confirmed coronavirus cases topped 1 million on Tuesday. According to the Johns Hopkins University, over 58,356 fatalities due to COVID-19 have been reported. The total number of people recovered stands at 1,15,572. Meanwhile, the U.S. Air Force's elite flying squad, the Thunderbirds, and the Navy's Blue Angels flew over New York and New Jersey to thank first responders, military personnel and essential workers who have been on the front lines of the fight against the novel coronavirus pandemic. The flying demonstration squadrons made a formation of 6 F-16C-D Fighting Falcon and 6 F-18C-D Hornet aircraft for the 40-minute flyover. The coronavirus death toll in Brazil has crossed the 5,000 mark. The Health Ministry of Brazil has confirmed the country has now surpassed China. Brazil is the worst hit South American nation. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of total cases is around 72,000. Experts believe the overall number of COVID-19 cases could be 12 to 15 times higher due to a large number of undetected cases, given the lack of testing availability in the country's among the country's 210 million population. Meanwhile, another crisis has hit the Latin American country as people are discontented with President Jair Bolsonaro's handling of the epidemic. Many believe that he should resign. And the coronavirus death toll has reached 21,678 in the UK. The United Kingdom has the 5th highest death toll in the world. The total number of infected cases is over 160,000. Health Minister Matt Hancock on Tuesday said that in view of the current situation, there is no short-term end in sight for the lockdown. Hancock added that Britain would publish data on deaths in care homes and in the community every day from today onwards. He also said that the UK was one of the leading countries in the race to find drugs able to combat coronavirus symptoms, and a new phase of clinical trials involving one possible treatment had begun on Tuesday. He added that the death and infection rate was not low enough to contemplate reopening of schools. Meanwhile, hospitals, train stations and fire brigades fell silent across the UK on Tuesday as a tribute to the National Health Service and other key workers who have died from COVID-19. 98 health and care service workers in the UK are known to have lost their lives after they tested positive for the virus. And in view of the nationwide lockdown in France, French lawmakers adopted a government-proposed plan to ease the lockdown, which has been in place since mid-March. The plan, which was already presented earlier in the session by French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe, was approved by members of parliament 368 to 100. As an outcome, France will soon begin to ease its coronavirus lockdown from May 11th to avoid an economic meltdown. The plan entails the progressive reopening of schools, public transport and other businesses. However, restaurants, cafes, cinemas and concert halls will still remain closed. Public gatherings will be limited to 10 people at a time. However, Prime Minister Philippe warned that infections would spiral again if the country moved too swiftly. As of now, 23,694 people have died from the new coronavirus, although the number of hospitalizations and those admitted in intensive care continued in a steady decline. The number of coronavirus cases, however, reached 1,69,053. And fatalities from the coronavirus epidemic in Italy climbed by 382, while the total number of people infected since the start of the outbreak topped 2 lakh. However, the daily tally of new infections stood at 2,091. The daily death toll of 382 was the highest since Saturday. And Italy's total number of fatalities since this epidemic came to light on February 21st now stands at 27,359, the second highest in the world after that of the US. The total of officially confirmed cases, which includes those who have died and recovered, amounts to 2,01,505, the third highest global tally behind those of the US and Spain. As Italian cities prepared for a cautious gradual reopening after the country's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte announced the coronavirus lockdown to start being lifted on May 4th, some major cities adopted new measures of social distancing. In Milan and in Rome, social distancing signs were placed in stations and on buses and metro carriages, as well as tests were also run to regulate access in stations and trains. Blue circles were drawn on platforms in order to keep passengers 1 meter apart from each other. And that's all we have for you in this edition of the news. News and updates continue on DD News and DD India. Namaskar.